State, you can proceed with any argument at this point in time.
Judge, I believe that's pretty close to what we already knew from the deposition testimony, from the doctors relaying what she said for the proffer. What we have here is testimony from the defendant. Her timeline is she comes downstairs after having gone up to the shower and hiding, laying down, after being declared to be it. She comes back downstairs, and before she gets back to the bottom of the stairwell, she can see that the victim is in the suitcase trying to get flat because the lid is flopping and he's not hidden just yet. And so she comes over, and I believe she testified she was moving it around before actually zipping the lid shut, but moving it around, everybody's laughing, it's all fun and games still, and then she zips it, and it's still fun and games, and everybody's laughing, and then at this point she testifies that this is now her opportunity to get on her pulpit to express her true feelings about everything. And that's when she sits down on the couch and opens up her phone device and begins recording what later turns out to be IMG _1062.movie at 11:12:45 for 2 minutes and 3 seconds. During this period of time, the decedent is expressing meekly that he can't breathe. The only time he ever curses at her is, "Sarah, I can't fucking breathe. Babe, I can't fucking breathe." He is demonstrating under the law that he is in fear of losing his life. She has committed an aggravated assault. She has committed false imprisonment. She was the initial aggressor. There was no overt act to justify these actions that she took against her boyfriend. She then goes on to say that during this period of time between the end of the movie at 11:14:48 seconds and before the next one starts at 11:23, that it's now at this time, while he's still constrained and clearly unable to get out under his own power despite having his hand out, she begins beating him with a bat, poking his hands, poking the suitcase with a deadly weapon. A bat is used for baseball, but it can also be used to harm another person. And according to the medical examiner's testimony, there was great harm caused to him, deep ecchymosis bruises. She can't start to do this out of fear, like the analogy I gave earlier. If I pull a gun to rob you, Judge, and you pull a gun, I can't shoot you in self-defense. She started this. She started this. There was no overt act. And therefore, we're asking for you to prevent, under the case law, any prior instances of violence, any reputation evidence, and any battered spouse syndrome evidence, because that's simply just what the case ended up being. Thank you.
Response.
Judge, this was a game by two intoxicated people. When people are drunk and intoxicated, they do silly and stupid things. The evidence is uncontroverted that Jorge Torres willingly, by his own choice, elected to hide in the suitcase. By their interaction between the two of them, giggling and laughing at each other, he consented to her zipping up the suitcase. And the playful nature of what was going on during those few minutes prior to the video. When the video is turned on, there's a 2-minute period where they're talking. He's saying, "I need to get out, I can't breathe." She's not taking him seriously. As you've seen from the videos, I thought it was the boy crying wolf. She did not appreciate the fact that he could be actually having trouble breathing. And this was a chance for him to be heard by her about how she felt about some things involving their relationship. A short time later, the video was turned off, and then that period has been testified to by my client. And that period is uncontroverted. That's a second period of time. We've got that time for the video. We got the 11 minutes. We got the 22 seconds. And there's no video, there's no audio, there's no eyewitness, there's nothing but Sarah Boone's testimony. And she's testified here today that they had words, there were threats, he got his hand out of the suitcase. She knew by the threats and him getting his hand out of the suitcase that he was about to get out of the suitcase and he was going to hurt her. A reasonable person under that scenario would believe she was about to be harmed. She was an imminent threat of harm. She blocked that attack by grabbing the bat, hitting his hand. When that didn't work, she started poking him with the bat in the suitcase. Eventually, she poked him several times. He put his hand inside the suitcase. She put the bat up. When she realized he was not going to do that any further, she flipped him over right side up. She still had a fear, knowing that if he got out, she would be harmed. He would beat her up. She went upstairs. That is an overt act based on the discussions, coupled with the fact that he threatened her, using the word, I'm going to fucking end it for you, or some words to that effect. I don't remember her exact words, just before she went upstairs while he was still in the suitcase. If she would have let him out, and this is now this is an event involving an omission, failure to act, failure to unzip him at that point before she went upstairs. The failure to act, the failure to unzip, which would have let him out, which would have created a situation that she believed was imminent bodily harm to herself. And I guess I'll get a couple of examples. Let's say that a police officer is called to a scene and the only thing he hears is there is a suspect and the suspect may be armed. So, of course, the officer pulls out his revolver and he's walking around. Well, then eventually he finds the suspect, and the suspect reaches for his waist. The officer doesn't see the gun, but the officer sees the movement to the waist. The officer fires and shoots the suspect. The officer is justified because there's an immediate threat of harm. The officer has to react instinctively. There's no time to think. Similar to the actions that Sarah Boone had to take. Another example, you're in a bar with your buddies and you've had something to drink and another group has had something to drink, and one of your buddies gets into an argument with one of the buddies on the other party. And one of your friends, seeing that it's being escalated and the guy that's arguing with your buddy is aggressive, more aggressive than your buddy is. Your buddy's trying to settle the thing, but this other individual, maybe he's had too much to drink and he's more aggressive. So you go around behind this individual, and before he's able to strike your buddy, you grab him. You lock him up. That's physical restraint to block an attack. Or you grab him by the neck and you choke him. Physical restraint to block an attack. That's what she was doing with the suitcase. If she let him out of the suitcase, she was going to be harmed based on him trying to get out with his hand, based on the threats he made while he had his hand out, and based on the threats he made while he had his hand inside just before she went upstairs.
Thank you. Court's going to review all the case law that it's obtained in its research in this matter and come back with an oral ruling momentarily. Thank you.